The night it all began felt like a celebration. Nancy had just earned a promotion after 4 years of hard work, and she stepped out with her friend to enjoy the moment, expecting nothing more than laughter, drinks, and a quiet sense of achievement. Then Kenneth walked in, carrying himself with effortless confidence, the kind that didn't need attention but always attracted it. And within minutes he was seated at their table, speaking smoothly about real estate, expensive projects, and a life that sounded far above ordinary. When the bill came, he paid without hesitation, and that single moment lingered in Nancy's mind more than she realized. From that night, everything moved quickly as calls turned into dates and dates turned into something deeper, with Kenneth making Nancy feel seen in a way that went beyond her success, making her feel chosen and valued. And for someone who had spent years building her life independently, that feeling was powerful. Even when small things didn't add up, like his late night calls, vague explanations about business, and constant promises that something big was just about to happen, Nancy noticed but chose to trust him, because love, especially when it feels right, has a way of softening doubts and silencing logic. Not long after, Kenneth proposed in a quiet, private moment with no crowd or pressure, just a ring and a promise of a future together, and Nancy said yes, believing she had finally found something real. However, as their relationship deepened, the balance between them began to shift as Kenneth started talking about business challenges, delayed payments, and temporary financial setbacks, and Nancy, wanting to be supportive, stepped in to help, first in small ways and then in much bigger ones, until she found herself covering most of their expenses, including rent, bills, food, and even parts of their wedding, convincing herself that it was only for a short time and that things would soon change. But the change never came, as the money kept going out while nothing tangible came in, and Kenneth's promises remained just words with no results. Yet Nancy stayed, holding on to hope and the belief that the man she loved would eventually become the man he claimed to be. Their marriage continued under this imbalance, with Nancy carrying financial responsibilities while Kenneth avoided accountability, deflecting questions and turning concerns into arguments, making her feel like she was the problem whenever she tried to understand what was happening. Everything continued like that until the day the truth entered her home in the form of another woman, calm and certain, carrying pieces of a story Nancy had never heard, revealing that Kenneth had been repeating the same pattern with multiple women, telling identical stories, gaining their trust, and taking their money under the same illusion of temporary struggle and future success. In that moment, Nancy realized she was not special or different but part of a carefully crafted pattern, and everything she believed began to collapse as she understood that the business deals were lies, the struggles were scripted, and the life she thought they were building together had never truly existed. When Nancy confronted Kenneth, he had no real defense left because the truth had already been exposed, and instead of breaking down, she became still and clear-minded, seeing everything for what it truly was. He admitted to the deception, including taking money from her and using it to maintain his lifestyle and manipulate other women. And in that moment, Nancy understood that she had not just been in a relationship but had been funding an illusion for years. She asked him to leave, and just like that, the life she believed in ended. But in its place, something new began as Nancy slowly started rebuilding her life, focusing on her child, her career, and her own healing, realizing that what she had been sustaining was not love but an illusion that had cost her deeply. Meanwhile, Kenneth's life began to fall apart as the system he had relied on collapsed, forcing him to face himself in ways he never had before, while Nancy chose to stay strong and rebuild from the truth she now understood. Over time, Nancy regained stability and clarity, creating a better life for herself and her children, setting boundaries and learning to prioritize her peace, while Kenneth began attempting to change, attending therapy, and trying to take responsibility for his actions. Eventually, he returned to her, not with charm but with remorse, bringing money to repay what he had taken and asking for one last chance to make things right and rebuild their family. By then, Nancy had changed as well, and she had learned that love should not come at the cost of her peace, dignity, or stability. So when she looked at Kenneth again, she no longer saw the man she once loved but the reality of who he had been, and with that clarity she refused him, not out of anger or bitterness, but out of understanding and self-respect. In the end, Nancy chose herself, choosing a future built on truth rather than illusion, proving that real strength is not just in loving deeply, but in knowing when to walk away. And sometimes the hardest truth to accept is this: not everyone who says they love you actually does. Nancy didn't just lose money, she lost time, trust, and the version of love she believed in. But in the end, she didn't lose herself, and that's what really matters. So let me ask you, if you were in Nancy's position, would you have given him another chance? Be honest, drop your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy stories like this, real stories about love, deception, and growth, then subscribe, because the next one might open your eyes in a way you don't expect. Click here to watch the next story.